Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us for today's session, technical demonstration of Goverlan. Kind of a smaller group today, so feel free to interact with us. The Q&A is open, chat is open. Send us any messages, ask us questions. Myself, Ezra, and Victor from our support team are here to assist you today. And we have some really cool examples of things to use Goverlan for. Some of the stuff that we'll go through the normal demo that we go through, but on top of it, we'll be going through some group membership reports, audit reports on users and group memberships, as well as NTFS permissions, and also doing kind of a different little patch example today, and one that pains me in particular as a member of the sales and marketing team here at Goverlan. I use Salesforce for Outlook, and it just seems like every single week I have to patch Salesforce for Outlook, and it's a more cumbersome patch because you have to close the application, the Salesforce for Outlook application, close Outlook, and then run the patch, and then reopen both apps. So kind of cool example in that. We'll start off with our general technical information for those of you just getting started with Goverlan, and I've prepared a couple of slides to run through. So we'll start off with what is Goverlan, and Goverlan is a suite of products. Each product itself is a module, and they can all be purchased and used independently of each other. But altogether, Goverlan makes up a suite. It includes a administration and diagnostics module, which is behind-the-scenes management for users, computers, and servers. And this is really helpful if right now, today, you're leaning on remote control a lot. A lot of what you use remote control for to support users, you can do behind the scenes. Things like deploying software, general desktop support, accessing the task manager, the command prompt, mapping printers and drives, all that stuff we can do behind the scenes without remote control. And then we'll cover some of Goverlan remote control. We offer a premium remote control, and it's an IT management with remote control. And the reason why it's more premium is it integrates with Active Directory, gives you a live mapping to which computer your users are currently working, and also we include proprietary shadowing of Citrix and RDP sessions. We'll also cover scope actions. Scope actions is the ability to target multiple computers, users, or groups, and then execute real-time configuration changes or reports, and also create very cool alerts. And it's got a lot of depth in there, and that's where we'll take a look at some of that NTFS permissions reporting. Another free module included in Goverlan is WMIX. This performs agentless administration of Windows machines, and it also can generate some really nice PowerShell or VB scripts based on any WMI class or instance. So in makeup, Goverlan is made up of these 4 different modules. Now, what it is a secure way to query, control, and administer machines no matter where they are in the world. So what we really are is a communication protocol. If all you need is a remote control solution because you need a remote control machines, we're a remote control solution. If you need something much more in-depth that can query and remediate based on reports and based on alerts, we're that too. We're a standalone on-premises solution, and we require no dedicated hardware pre-configuration. So a very small, lightweight application, and it'll install on any Windows desktop. And the admin side will install on any Windows desktop. You don't need servers or anything like that. All you need is a Windows desktop. You stand up either our standalone remote control console, which we offer, or our entire suite of products. And lastly, we're a framework to support the way you work. So like I said, if all you need is remote control, we provide that. But then if you're really in depth and you want something to store and organize your PowerShell scripts, or build out really awesome automation, or take advantage of some of the vPro technology you invested in, we're all of that too. We work really nicely with Configuration Manager, and if you're on an Active Directory domain, you'll realize that we wrap around Active Directory automatically and leverage it quite a bit to give you both a way to navigate through your environment easily, as well as act as an impersonation engine so that we impersonate your role in Windows, so there's no need for separate permissioning within Goverland. Active Directory is definitely not a requirement, so if you just have some workgroup machines that you want to use remote control for, definitely a good use case for Goverland. Let's talk a little bit about the Goverland agent. So the agent is how we communicate with those remote machines. All communication between the console and those agents is encrypted in both directions. There's nothing sent in plain text, and it's all point-to-point. In other words, it's just a console that's installed on the admin's desktop communicating with the agent that's installed on all your client machines. And you can see that the agents are stable, secure, and self-managed. They're less than 5 megabytes. And by no external dependencies, you don't have to install the .NET framework or anything crazy like that. It's just you pop the 5 megabyte agent on there. And again, all that agent management and installation happens from within the console. It's a silent installation. In other words, it's not going to interrupt your users installing and uninstalling the agent. They'll experience no change in their day. You'll see a slight difference on the administrator side. And you can see that for agent installation, we use port 45, and it requires local admin rights. The Goverland Central Server is another component in Goverland that's completely optional. It's used to distribute policies on those remote machines. What kind of policies? Things like, do you want to require an end user have to accept a remote control session before you're able to launch it? Do you want to be able to launch into remote control sessions in stealth mode? That means we don't display a pop-up, we don't display a notification to the end user, you just jump right in. Do you want to display a customized banner when launching a remote control session? So all those things can be controlled through the Goverland Central Server. It also will provide an audit place for certain Goverland events, including remote control session events. So if you want to provide audit reports on which admin logged into which machine and for how long, that's where you can do it from. And also Windows login, logout events. All communication for the central server uses port 21160. And now we will jump into a demo of Goverland. So let's just jump right in here. And what you see here on my screen now is the Goverland console. So, and you're actually looking at my desktop, the desktop I use every day. For today's demo, we're actually going to start with Goverland Remote Control. Normally we start with the suite. I want to start with remote control for anybody on the line who may just be considering a remote control solution, just to show you what you would experience. So this is our standalone remote control module. And I'm presented with this big orange connect button and some options. And you can see under the options that we support multiple different connection protocols. Anything from Telnet SSH to Command Prompt, vPro, VNC, RDP, or our own Goverland protocol. And that Goverland protocol uses proprietary compression and encryption. When I hit this connect button, I'm offered the choice to connect directly to a computer or to a user. Now, obviously, if you're on a workgroup environment, you're going to connect directly to a computer. You can supply an IP address or a machine name. If you're within an Active Directory environment, you can type in a username here. Hit search and then set focus on this user. And when I hit connect, Goverland's going to query for where this user is logged in real time and map me to their active sessions. You can see that Aaron is currently logged into 3 different sessions. One of them is just on a vPro machine, one of them is on a Windows 7 machine, and the other one is a Citrix or RDP session. In this case, it happens to be a Citrix XenApp session. And what we'll do in that instance is map you directly to the hosting server and give you an option to immediately start shadowing that user session. I'm going to connect to this vPro machine and just hit connect, and you can see that there's nothing that has to happen on the end user side for me to connect to this machine. It instantly connects me. This banner is what's customizable by the Goverland Central Server. In this case, it disappears after 10 seconds. I can have it stay up there until an end user accepts. I can have it not appear at all. Once I'm in a remote control session, we're actually sitting at a lower layer than UAC. So you can you can do things like right-click on an application and run as administrator, and this UAC prompt, I'll be able to interact without an end user sitting on the other end. And that's a key difference between Goverland and some of the other remote control solutions out there, and that's what makes us an IT remote control solution, because you're able to run at an elevated state. There's also a lot of other bells and whistles included in here, things like file transfer and a clipboard transfer, recording remote control sessions, managing power options, and with vPro machines, you have some really cool options like restarting to BIOS and restarting to a mounted image, spawning a command prompt with PowerShell support. There's a file manager, a task manager, and a whole lot more. So a lot of different options in Goverland remote control that you may not see in some of the other remote control solutions out there. So for today's demo, we're going to jump from here. You know, you get the basic idea of Goverland remote control. I'm able to establish connections to multiple machines. If I want to establish a connection to another machine, here I can say, you know, connect directly to a computer and just look for a partial computer name, hit connect, and when I hit connect again, it drops me right into this remote control session. And we're actually going to be doing some work on this machine. This is the machine that we're going to use to demo patching Salesforce for Outlook. And so I'm going to go ahead and build through that process with you. And to build through that, we're going to jump back into the Goverland suite. And one of the things that we're going to use are, we're going to use a couple of different components to build this out, all located in Manage Goverland Objects. If you're on the start page of the Goverland suite, you can't be in the standalone remote control. You have to be in the entire suite. On the start page, you'll see this link for Manage Goverland Objects. If we just click on that, and we're going to start with taking a look at some software packages. And you can see I already built out two software packages. I have the old version of Salesforce for Outlook and the new version. And just to show you what it looks like, Goverland will enable you to deploy software on remote machines. And this is all you need to do to build out a software package. In this case, it's an MSI, but we also include support for EXEs. All you got to do is give it a name, an optional description. You can put it in a category, so I can say, you know, this is going to be in my Salesforce category. And then I can just point to where this package is located. I have it stored on a file share for desktop software. And you can see I just have the MSI file there. And it's going to transfer this package to the client and then run it locally. And you can see now that I added that category, it dropped it into the Salesforce folder. So if you were building this from scratch, all you do is hit this plus sign, select MSI, and then give it the name, the description, and then just point us to where the package is located. Once that package is located, I'm then going to go and jump into custom actions, because from here is where I need to build the Salesforce for Outlook upgrade. And I already have it built, but I'm going to build it from scratch just so we can see all the steps that you need to go through to update Salesforce for Outlook. So step one is we'll hit this little plus sign and we'll open a custom action for a computer view. And we're just going to call this patch Salesforce for Outlook. Okay, and we can put this in a category, and I can put it in my patching category if I want. And I can give it an optional description. Maybe I want to put in the version number of Salesforce for Outlook that I'm going through now. And now I have to start adding my steps. And so my first step here is going to be to close Outlook. And so just giving it a name, and then I'm going to go into this add remove, and I'm going to execute an action, and I can use this little search menu to search for terminate, because what I actually want to do is terminate a process. And what the process I'm looking to terminate is the Outlook.exe. And if you have questions about which process it is you're looking to terminate, and we want to terminate the child processes as well, I'm just going to show you how we're going to figure out which process it is to terminate. that we want to terminate while we go through this. So I added in close Outlook, and I may have known that it's called Outlook.exe. But if I don't know, what I can do is I can set focus on this Longhorn 2 machine that we're patching right now. Right here, I can set focus on it. And here we've jumped into administration and diagnostics. And if I go into the task manager here, I can see all the tasks that are running. And I can see Salesforce for Outlook is running. And I know that this right here is the process I want to terminate. Okay, and then if I, for Outlook, I know it's just Outlook.exe. So that's how we'll get our information on what process to terminate. So let's just jump back into our object here, into our patch object. And now we're going to add another step to close Salesforce for Outlook. And again, we are going to terminate a process. So I'm going to jump into execute computer action, just type in terminate to find the terminate a process and drop in that process name, terminate the child processes as well, and hit OK. So now we've closed Outlook and we've closed Salesforce for Outlook. So now we want to actually deploy our MSI file. So here we're going to go to execute computer action, software products, and install a software package. And that patch that I created is available for me. All I do is this little modal opens up. I hit the little ... open up Salesforce, grab this Salesforce for Outlook, and hit OK. And then hit OK. And now what I actually want to do is, after it patches Salesforce for Outlook, I actually want to reopen Salesforce for Outlook. And you may have a lot of different use cases for this, but in this case, it's because the sales users don't know that it's a separate application that's running, and they just know Outlook has changed. I can no longer send information into my Salesforce, so something's broken. So just because of that, I'm going to restart the plugin. Okay. And here I want to run a new process, right, Victor?
Correct. It's the same exe that you closed.
And
you want to put the whole extension, Ezra.
I want to put in the what now?
The entire extension.
Okay.
So if you just click OK and click OK again just to close this, OK. OK, one more time. We'll go to the task manager.
Yep.
And double click Salesforce right there and copy the whole right there. Just that whole thing.
Boom. There we go. And that's why Victor is here for you as well. Huh?
Yes. No, I'm just saying, because in this case, you're telling Goverland to execute a new process on the machine, so you have to give it the full path. If not, it's assuming System32 when you just put in an exe there.
And do I want to run this as the console user or just the local?
As the user that's logged into the machine, so it would be number one as the console user.
Okay. And I don't need anything else in there, right?
No, you don't want to wait for the completion in this case, or wait for it to time out or kill the process on a timeout. You can just go ahead and hit OK because it runs, that plugin runs in the background anyways.
Okay. So now we have all of our steps necessary to patch Salesforce for Outlook. And if you've been in the patching game, you can see the power of what we've done is instead of just deploying an MSI or exe file, we've actually gone and taken some other steps as well that have to do with this patch just to make sure the patch is going to run correctly. We've closed all the applications that relate to the patch, and then we've actually reopened the applications afterwards so that we don't have confused users, which is actually a really nice of us. We're going above and beyond here. So just to have a little fun, we are going to actually open up a remote control session on this machine. So here we're actually looking at the machine, and I'm going to drop this on half my screen here if I can. I don't know if I can get this to...
Do Windows key left.
Windows key left, okay. And then we'll open up the console on the other side here. And now we're within administration and diagnostics. These are all the different tools available to us on a remote machine. So I can do it, and there's not a lot to talk about here because these are all native Windows tools. So if I wanted to just deploy the software by itself, I can jump into software products. And by the way, in here, I can see that the previous version of Salesforce for Outlook is installed. It's version 3.0.00.41, just let's remember that. And then you can see all of my, I can just deploy this patch just like this, but a high chance of failure rate since I know both Outlook and Salesforce for Outlook are both open on this target machine. So I don't know that this patch is going to run correctly. There's other tools I can do, like mapping printers, mapping drives, anything like that, all native Windows. The big difference between administration and diagnostics and remote control is in administration and diagnostics here, I'm doing everything behind the scenes, while if I was coming in here and mapping printers on this machine, it would be interrupting the user, interacting with their machine while they're potentially trying to get some work done. But down here in custom actions, we have built out our Salesforce for Outlook patch. And we're going to go and run this now. And what we expect to happen, and what I hope happens, is Outlook closes, Salesforce for Outlook closes, it performs the patch, and then it relaunches the application. So let's just go and run this. And we'll keep our fingers crossed. And you can see that Outlook already closed, it's gone. And Salesforce for Outlook should be closed as well. And you can see that all actions have been executed successfully. So if I jump back into software products now, I expect to see the new version of Salesforce for Outlook installed. And indeed you do. Before we were looking at version 3.0.00.4, I think, and now you can see we're at 3.0.02.56. So we patched Salesforce for Outlook. We did it in a way that didn't interrupt the user at all. In this case, we had to close Outlook, but that's something necessary for running this patch. You know, obviously you may not want to run this patch during business hours, but you know, otherwise we've done a really nice job, and you can see Salesforce for Outlook reopen. So as soon as this user relaunches Outlook, their experience will be the same. Salesforce for Outlook will be there, and it'll just be on the updated version. So that's kind of a little quick view of how you might use both administration and diagnostics and Goverlan remote control. So, you know, with Goverlan remote control, I could have downloaded the patch and installed it manually, and I'm running at, I can run it as an administrator, so I can interact with UAC prompts even if there's another user logged in. In admin and diagnostics, I can do all this stuff behind the scenes, but using custom actions, I can also sequence these events so that I again, you know, make sure the patch happens successfully. I close the applications, I ran the patch, and then I relaunched the applications. So, you know, some other examples of things that you may want to consider using custom actions for, and we have literally a ton of them in here. Things like passing through a new Wi-Fi password or querying literally anything on a remote machine. And so if we wanted to build a quick query, I can say that, hey, you know what? I want to see what's going on that machine in terms of software inventory. So I can just come in here and I can say software inventory, if I can type today, and then I can just, anything I check off and report a computer property becomes a column heading for me. So if I want to run software inventory on this machine, I can bring in product name, product version, product code, and install date, and hit OK, and hit OK again. And you can see I now created a report for software inventory. And if I double click on it, it actually runs in real time. So it's actually going and generating this report right now, and it just opened for me on my second monitor here. And we now have a query of all the software installed on that machine with those product codes. So, and I mean, if you look through the menu on your own, it's menus on menus of information in here, so much so that we have had to add in this little search. So if you want to look for like drive space, and you want to report on drive space, you can see that all of that is available. So if instead of software inventory, I just want to see, show me all of the drive space on this machine. So I'm going to check off all of that, and I'll come in here and I'll uncheck software inventory. And now this is becoming a drive space report. So really this quickly, I can query anything on remote machines, and the same thing is for users and in scope actions for groups as well. And here you can see I very quickly pulled up this drive space report. I can see that my C drive, and I can see how much available space I have, even as a % and my use space and everything like that. So very quickly pull together any types of queries. So in the last demo, and just to show you some other use cases for custom actions, in the last demo, we also looked at targeting users. And I'm not going to walk through everything here, but I will show you that what we did was we terminated a user. We had this user, Amy McKenna, and we decided that we needed to terminate this user. And so we built a custom action that ran through a series of steps to terminate a user. And if we run it now, you'll see it'll do things like run a group membership report, run a login history report, terminate the user, do some Active Directory cleanup, disable their account, change their password, move them into a different OU. And here's our group membership report and our login history report. And now if we just refresh our view here, you'll see Amy's gone, and Amy will be dropped into terminated users. And then we also built that reinstate one, which we called unterminate, which just unrolls those actions. So if you want to see any of those, they're in our archives of demos, and you can just go back to a couple of weeks ago, and you'll see how to terminate and reinstate users very quickly. So on to some other stuff for today's demo. So for today's demo, we are going to be looking at NTFS permissions and group memberships. And I already built out the reports, but we're going to build it out from scratch again. And this is using Goverlan Scope Actions. So Goverlan Scope Actions does everything we just saw in administration and diagnostics, but targeting multiple machines at once. So for example, if I wanted to patch Salesforce for Outlook on 50 machines, I can just say, patch Salesforce for Outlook, and now I'm going to hit next, and I'm going to define a target of multiple machines. Let's say I want to go just grab all the machines in all of my production machines, right? So here I'm going to grab all of my production machines, and then all I have to do is go through and add those same steps that we just saw, right? So we're going to terminate the process. We're going to terminate those two processes. We're going to install the patch, and then we're going to restart that process. It's the same wizard. It builds out the same way. So I'm not going to run through all the steps again. So what we'll do instead is we'll look at some other use cases for Goverlan Scope Action. So obviously installing that same patch is really easy. Installing any other patch, installing any Windows updates is really straightforward. So just to prove the point, we'll look at installed software on a group of machines. And it's that same report with product name, product version, product code, and install date. The only difference now is that I'm looking at a whole OU of workstations instead of just one, and I'm pulling together this HTML datasheet report. And if I go and run this now, again, it runs in real time, so it's going to go and hit all those machines and gathers all this information, and then as I click through each machine, it's going to have all the installed software. So very straightforward. The only difference between admin and diagnostics and scope actions so far is that in scope actions, we can target multiple users, computers, or groups and apply those same custom actions to them. Now, another difference between scope actions and admin and diagnostics is the scheduler, right? So if you remember from the slides that we were looking at earlier, Goverlan agents are passive, which means they're sitting there quietly waiting for instructions from the console. So if you want to monitor for something, let's say you want to monitor for hard disk space, you have to tell the console how often you want it to go and query for hard disk space. So if I want to build a hard disk monitor, all I do is define a report that I want to look for, let's say machines with less than 50% hard disk space, and then I define a schedule. I tell it, go out and perform this every 10 minutes. So if we go and look at what we're doing here, we're again just defining a scope of machines, and then we're pulling together a report with device name, available space as a %, and only returning where the C drive has less than 50% space. So I'm only looking for machines that have less than 50% space. And if I go and run this once now, we can just get an idea of which machines it'll return to me. And you can see that I have 4 machines that have less than 50% space on the C drive. And if I wanted to go and turn this into a monitor, I can just tell it to perform this task every 10 minutes. And every 10 minutes, if it returns any results, it'll send me a pop-up or an email or whatever I configure it to do. Now, on top of Goverlan just notifying you that there's an issue on these target machines, I can also tell it to execute an action. I can say, hey, if you're indeed running out of hard disk space, I don't want you to just tell me that there's a problem and make me run back from lunch early. I want you to go and move around some files and folders, or I want you to deploy a script or do some actual work so that I don't have to rush back to the office or drop whatever I'm doing just to make sure that I don't run out of hard disk space on a couple of machines. So we have the monitoring and the remediation all built into one. Goverlan is indeed a framework, so this section comes empty, but we do these demos every single Friday, and there's tons of tutorials and help and different ideas of all different types of things you can do with Goverlan, including hard disk monitors and ping monitors and server and application monitors and a lot of other stuff. So just want to mention that. So let's jump in here and perform some of our compliance reports for today. Today we're going to be looking at a group membership report first. So to build the group membership report, we're going to hit this add new to create a new scope action. And I'm just going to call it group membership and then sales, because that's who we're going to be reporting on. And now in the target, I actually want to target groups this time because I'm targeting that sales group, and I want to define who's a member of the sales group. I'm going to add an individual object, and I'm just going to search for sales. And this becomes really easy because this is all Active Directory integrated. So, you know, you just search for something and grab it, and boom, it's there. Now, in here, I want to go and report on a group property, and I just want to see the group members. Do I want to see effective or regular, Victor?
You're just looking for, what are you looking for specifically? I apologize.
Just a group membership report. I guess I can just see. I don't think there are any that are effective via any.
No, I think NT account and effective via is the most important thing.
Okay.
Right there.
Well, we'll just pull
Yeah, you can select them all if you like. Either way, it's fine.
Okay, so I have all my columns there, and I can define how I want this to be outputted, and I'm just going to run this now and hit finish. And so we're going to see an output of all the different users that are a part of my sales group, and that's just what I've generated. And the really nice thing about this is if you have any type of compliance concerns, I know we have a lot of customers who have like SOX compliance concerns, and they need to run this report on a monthly basis. And the report doesn't have to get delivered to them. It actually has to get delivered to the department heads, who have to verify that all of the members are indeed the same for the next month. And so instead of monthly, having to generate all these reports and send them out to all the different places, use the little Goverlan schedule, tell it where you want us to send the report to, and then just define the schedule. And then once a month, instead of sending out all of your compliance reports, go play golf or go fishing. It's your choice. So again, we can decide every month on a certain day of the month, let's say it's the 29th day of the month, you'll automatically send out all of your compliance reports and say, hey, are all these people still supposed to be a member of this group? And then the department heads just reply back and they say yes or no, and you've done your work in terms of knocking out that compliance objective. Now, another really powerful piece to this is NTFS permissions, and Goverlan will allow you to do like deep dive reports on corporate file shares, and tell you like, you know, who has what level of permissions to these file shares. And this is another really important report in the compliance world, and it's another area where a lot of companies spend quite a bit of money with putting together these really comprehensive compliance solutions that do little more than produce reports on NTFS permissions and group memberships. And you can accomplish the same thing as just two very quick scope actions within Goverland. And obviously not everybody has a use case for this, but if you don't, at least you know the depth that Goverland goes to. And so I'll just show you how we built this one out. In this case, we're going to define the scope, and the scope is going to be the actual file server that contains the file shares. So if you want to report on NTFS permissions, you got to point us at that file server because that's where those permissions and files are located. And then what you do next is you jump into here and you have to define an accessible directory. And what you're doing here is you're just telling us, this is the directory I want to report on. In our case, we want to report on the corporate data directory. And very cool is you can define how many subdirectories or folders within folders Goverland's going to report. So if you just want to report on the root directory, you would just do something like I defined and don't check off anything. But if you want to go like a lot of different compliance objectives define, going 2 levels deep. So within a folder, so you can actually granularly define that, or just say I want to report on every single item within this file share. In our case, we're just going to be looking at the root. After you've defined your corporate directory, in this case, a corporate data, you just check off any of the columns you want to include in your report. So in our case, we want object type, object name, principal, and access basic. And the other thing that we want to see is we only want to see where the object name equals sales division, because that's really what we were concerned with. We want to see, what the level of permission is on that sales division folder. So if I go and run this now, just give it a second to convert, and we will have all of our info. And here we can see that on my sales division, on the sales folder in corporate data, here's all the different principals, and here's the access level that all those principals have. Now, another really neat thing you can do is, instead of, since I've defined a group membership report to only look at my principal of my sales group, I can also just filter out just that sales group within my NTFS permissions report. This way I can produce a report of who is a member of PJ Tech Sales, and then what is their access level within sales division. And again, you can schedule these reports, you can have them go out automatically, and really cut down on the amount of manual work you have to do on a monthly basis just to prove compliance. Going to go through 1 or 2 more examples here, and then we'll do a little bit more on remote control and RDP. It seems like that is a very popular feature, so we really can't show that off enough. So last example here is, again, something we've done in the past, but just to bring it up again, and that's an Active Directory Seek and Clean. You can target users' computers for this, and you're just looking for anything with an inactive state. And in our case, you define these inactive states in these user conditions. And so here we've just taken a look at anything where the current date and time, or not current date and time, this should be the last logon is less than 90 days ago. And so again, we're looking at the last logon stamp is less than 90 days ago, and we can just very quickly produce a report of anybody who hasn't logged on in the past 90 days, and then anybody who gets returned in that report, we can decide to remove group memberships or move them to an inactive OU or anything like that. So a lot of controls, a lot of automation that you can build based on any report, any of the values that get returned in that report. You can decide any follow-up actions you want to do. So here I'm going to be just jumping into Aaron Woods again and setting focus on him. And when I set focus on him, remember we mentioned that he has a session on a Citrix server as well. and I'm going to connect to that user session. Oh, it looks like I got disconnected. So actually, really, what it did is kind of nice here. It told me that that session has been disconnected, but what we're actually looking at is the hosting server, and you can see that I see that there's 3 different user sessions. The one that I attempted to connect to has been disconnected. Another one's disconnected, but there is one active session that I can connect into as well. And I can also jump into the physical console. So we give you a really nice view of RDP and Citrix sessions and a really easy way to manage them. So if you're managing any type of RDP or Citrix session, Goverlan is a great solution both on the remote control side and as well as a lot of different controls in the administration and diagnostic side. And just to run through some of the other tools that are available to you, you know, we mentioned the command prompt. The file manager lets you move around files and folders. The task manager is actually a super task manager. It's not just a regular Windows task manager. You can see things like process-parent relationships. Really helpful if you're trying to troubleshoot computers. The top 5 talkers in real time. You can see the top 5 by CPU, disk I/O, memory, and page faults. And also hover states on all these performance charts. So if a machine's peaking, you can just very quickly hover over, see exactly what's causing the machine to peak and exactly what's going on. You can print active documents, take snapshots, and you can record remote control sessions. We mentioned the Goverlan Central Server and its ability to distribute policies to those agents and how they're going to react, whether they're going to display pop-ups or not. So if you have a use case for a self-monitoring solution, you actually have that in Goverlan. You can connect to a machine in stealth mode. We'll actually connect in observe-only mode as well, so your movement of mouse and keyboard won't affect the end user. They'll get no notification, and you can also record those remote control sessions. Even neater is if I open up my favorites panel here, I can open up multiple remote control sessions at once. When you open up multiple remote control sessions, they'll open in this tiled view. And you can turn on and off heat map performance counters that are running underneath each machine. So underneath each machine, you'll see these performance counters, and I can decide what I want to see. Maybe I don't want to see CPU % or memory %, but I am interested in, you know, disk write, disk read, and network activity. So I see all that information. Once I set up, you know, once you can arrange a layout the way you like it. If you double click on any machine, it takes you into a one-on-one with that machine, and you can jump back into a monitoring view. Once you set up the layout the way you like it, you can click Save Layout, save it as an icon on your desktop or somewhere else, give it a name, call it Critical Servers or Most Annoying End Users, whatever you want to call it, and then just, you know, double click on that icon again, and it'll open up that same group of machines the same way every time, just giving you really quick access to, let's say, your critical servers or other critical infrastructure. And once you're in one of these monitoring views, these are actually live refreshes. You can see that we just cut them down to 1 second refreshes, but you can adjust those. You can decide, hey, I see some weird activity on this machine. I want to right-click on it and start recording video to file. So you can really use this for, you know, if you have a use case for live monitoring, Goverlan's a great solution for that as well. I'm going to open it up to any questions if there's anything anybody else wants to see. You know, we did it kind of a little bit differently today with that Salesforce for Outlook plugin. It was weighing on me heavily since I spent the past, you know, a good amount of time the past couple of weeks just messing around with that plugin, getting it working right and getting it patched right. So did want to share that with you. But if there are any questions, feel free to enter them either into the chat or the Q&A session. We'll be happy to address them. We're always happy to have everybody on the line. Happy to have you join us. Hopefully you got something good out of today's session. You can contact either myself or Victor through sales@goverlan.com. You can just put it attention Ezra or attention Victor. Either one of us will be happy to follow up with you at any point. And in case anybody's wondering, we do record these sessions. We post them online afterwards, and we'll send everybody a link to a recording. if you'd like.
I wanted to add one more thing. Now that we have a couple more minutes ahead of us, if anything.
Sure.
If you want to, I'm going to request remote control here. So I wanted to delve a little further on Ryan's question in terms of being able to execute the changing of a file extension behind the scenes. And basically, what I wanted to demonstrate was just the way how Goverlan works at a real lower level with Windows. So out of box, there isn't no way that you can just go to an action and say, hey, change file extension to this, this, and this. It has to, you have to build it out at a lower level. So the easiest way to research different things that Goverlan may be able to tap into is specifically the command line tool sets. So for example, I did a simple Google search on changing file association via CMD. And if you can do it via CMD, then you can configure Goverlan to be able to do these actions behind the scenes without your clients knowing. And the way you would do it is, for example, I was able to find that there is a command called ACCOC that allows you to change file associations. So I'll just show you here, file associations. And then here, I got it. And then here we'd go to execute computer action, and we go to processes, and we go to run a new process. Now here, simply what we would do is we call to the cmd.exe process with a /c. Now Goverlan automatically assumes the system32 location here, so you don't have to put a full extension when running a process that can be accessed via the command line, like cmd.exe. And here is where you would type in whatever command you would use for the file association. In this case, it's ASSOC. So you can see here that if we go here to CMD locally on the machine and we type in ASSOC and we do a question mark, we can see that we can change displays or modifies file extension associations. And then we can do the same type of command here. So any type of command that you would use here, you would simply type in the arguments here. So in this case, it would be whatever the extension is, and then you would tell it, you know, whatever methods that you need to do to go ahead and change it here. And you can do the same thing with all different other types of processes. For example, the Windows update process. You can do wsa.exe, and then you can go ahead and feed to it a KB number, for example, to 153, a KB file that you may have. So there are different types of things that you can do with Goverlan, and you can expand Goverlan's capabilities for built-in things that might not have, that Goverlan might not have out of box, but you can go ahead and call to the cmd.exe command, and then use any type of command that you can do inside of CMD, whether it be a reg command like adding a registry, or even an ipconfig, or maybe just an ipconfig flush DNS that you want to do. So for example, if you have DNS cache problems, you can schedule this to run every hour, and your clients will constantly get their DNS flushed, and so on and so forth. But this is just a beautiful example of how you can expand Goverlan and use, you know, native Windows tools with Goverlan, and then do those behind the scenes without needing to bother your clients and do these types of tasks in the back end.
Awesome. I'm going to grab control back and just address another question here about the agents. So I guess in the past demos, we've spent a little bit more time talking about the agents, but I want to just show you some of the agent management. So if I go and remove the agent off of this machine, it's just going to yank it right off. Now, the agent management is all on demand. So by that, I mean, you don't have to go and deploy all the agents on the machines or all at once, although there is a bulk agent manager tool in the help. If you go to help Goverlan Agent Manager, from here I can go and add single computers or just grab a whole bunch of domain computers. I can say, you know, go and show me all of my my production workstations, for example, and I can just grab all of these and in bulk manage all these agents, right? But I don't have to do it that way. I can, as you move through and work on different machines, if you come to an action that requires the agent, Goverlan will always prompt you to install the agent. So if I try and remote control this machine that doesn't have the agent on it, Goverlan's just going to say, hey, I need the agent. What do you want to do? And you can say, don't proceed, or install the agent and proceed. And if you choose install the agent, all it is that little 5 megabyte file getting popped onto that machine, and then it connects you just like normal. So it just takes an added second if you don't pre-configure all your machines to get the agent on there. And then obviously once the agent's on there, you can do whatever you want to do. Now, if I go and remove the agent again, the same thing is true in administration and diagnostics. If I come up to an action in administration and diagnostics that requires the agent, like software products, for example, it should just prompt me to install the agent. In this case, I have it set to pop it back on there, but prompt me to install the agent and then allow me to move from there.
Yeah, Ezra, let me just clarify what occurred here. So basically, you went ahead and clicked software products and it auto-installed the agent, because here in the Goverlan agent settings, you have it set to automatically install the agents if needed. So you can set it to be automatic if you like, but in this case, if you go ahead and disable these options, and you go, and the same thing with scope action, and you hit OK, and then we remove it, then you'll get it because you had it set to auto-install. That's the reason why. So here, when we go to software products, what it's going to do is give you that prompt. Now we can go ahead and hit do not proceed if we like. And what Goverlan is going to do is automatically peer into the Sure Data database and give you the historical data. As you can see, the last time it communicated with the machine was at 12:51 p.m. And you can see the same thing with system info, historical data. And then once we go ahead and install the agents, and you can see how far the historical data will go. It'll go into detailed information. Oh, actually, no, wrong one. Device manager here. Detailed information. And every time you want to put an action, and you can see here, it's going to go ahead and ask the query. And then we can go ahead and install the agent if we need to, and it'll populate whatever info is historical or not. See?
Awesome.
And that's pretty much it here. You can see here we hit install agents, and now the data is live.
I think Ryan still has an issue, but maybe we can offline it. I don't know if you want to take a look at that.
If he's having a specific issue, then we can address that later on after the